Battlefield 2042's update 5.1 is just around the corner. We finally had some news from DICE. It has on the whole been a pretty quiet week this week, but we've just heard that update 5.1 is going to be releasing next week. I can only assume that means on Tuesday, and it's bringing quite a few significant changes. There's a new seasonal event, there are some pretty big changes coming to the jets, and there's also what I can only really refer to as, I guess, a hazard zone rework of sorts. So we're going to get into all the changes here, big and small, in just a second. But before we begin, if you guys do enjoy the content here on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Our current goal is 46,000, so any help you guys can give me with reaching that goal would be massively appreciated. Okay, so let's just dive straight in here. First of all, we have a brand new event coming for Season 5, so it says the Archangel Legion are ascending. Before we head into the changes taking place for update 5.1.0, we wish to confirm that your next seasonal event will be arriving in July. We'll share full details with you as soon as we get closer to launch of the event. Expect new earnable cosmetics to acquire, and we look forward to seeing you take control of the situation. And this is the screenshot here that accompanies that. So I'm assuming these are a couple of the cosmetics that we can hope to unlock during that event. Overall, these events haven't excited me too much. I think the one on Spearhead was pretty good, where we had 3 different game modes. Those game modes would rotate over the 3 weeks, so we got to play, you know, a few days of the first one, then it changed to the second one and the third one. That was a pretty cool way of doing things. Hopefully that's how it's going to work in Season 5 as well. But moving on here, we've got some new changes coming to a few more Vault weapons. So it says here, Season 5 New Dawn marked the start of Vault weapons receiving all-out warfare attachments, with assault rifles and the Gold Sniper Magnum became the first to receive these improvements. Marksman rifle Vault weapons are next to receive this same support, with the M39 EMR and the SVD. So we have 2 more weapons now getting the attachment and the camo treatment that the assault rifles and the Gold Magnum have already gotten. Not the most exciting of weapons to me, but I'm sure some of you guys out there do enjoy using the marksman rifles, and you'll definitely be happy to get that news, of course. However, it could mean that just like with the assault rifles, how we saw the MTAR and the ACWR becoming very powerful, you might want to keep your eyes out on Tuesday, guys, when 5.1 goes live, and check out the M39 and the SVD. You never know, those weapons may be far better than they previously were. Okay, next we have some changes to squad spawning improvements. So they say here that there will now be a low vehicle health prompt when you attempt to spawn on vehicles from the deployment screen, allowing you to better see the state of the vehicle or if it is in combat. We've also restricted the ability to spawn on foot with the Cav Brawler should the vehicle be at capacity and currently in combat. That helps you prevent your untimely death upon a spawn. So hopefully what this should alleviate is those silly deaths where you just don't know what sort of a situation the vehicle is in, you spawn there and you instantly die. Of course, having a camera type system like Battlefield 4 had would solve this entirely, and I've always advocated for that coming back to the game, but I think because the map is like 3D and it's like a real-time map and you can see what's going on, it's not quite as easy to implement such a system as it was in a game like BF4 where you had a 2D map. Okay, next up we've got some pretty meaningful changes to the Hazard Zone game mode, and this was a surprise to me. I kind of thought that DICE had more or less abandoned the Hazard Zone game mode, as seems to be the case with the majority of players. I know that I played 1 single round of Hazard Zone, and I have not really looked at that game mode since. I don't know about you guys, maybe that's just me, but here are the changes that they've made. So Hazard Zone coins have been removed along with the buy phase at the start of the round and the reward payout at the end of the round. They have now introduced XP gains as the main reward function for successfully extracting. Data drives define the amount of XP rewarded upon successful extractions. Take note, only 2 teams can extract in total, so ensure that you're one of them. And then similar to Conquest and Breakthrough, players will now be able to bring their normal loadouts into Hazard Zone. So previously you had this like Hazard Zone currency that you would earn by playing Hazard Zone and extracting, and you could then use that currency to unlock the various weapons to use within Hazard Zone, regardless of the fact whether you'd unlock them in the base game or not. So that has basically all been scrapped. There is no currency anymore, there is no gating the weapons behind that system. You have access to your full specialist loadout the same way that you would in Conquest or Breakthrough, and now the reward instead is going to be experience. So this may be worth hopping on Tuesday, even if you don't particularly like the game mode. if this offers a pretty good amount of experience comparable to Conquest or Breakthrough, or dare I say it, maybe even better, then, you know, maybe I'll actually give this one a look for a change. Okay, the next section is specialists and gadgets. There's only really a couple of meaningful changes in here, and the first one is that they have fixed an issue that allowed for Irish's APS shootdown sentinel to unintentionally intercept vehicle weaponry from 20mm, 30mm, and 50mm cannons. So I guess the APS only shoots down projectiles. I mean, yes, cannons, of course they do shoot projectiles, but what they mean here is explosive projectiles. So apparently it was intercepting 20, 30, and 50mm cannon shots, and that is no longer going to be the case. And then the next change here is to the Claymore lasers. They will now accurately reflect team ownership and follow your custom enemy, ally, and squad colors, meaning they are actually colorblind friendly too. So if the enemy's placed a Claymore, it's going to be red, and if a friendly has placed a Claymore, it's going to be blue, and if a squaddy has placed it, presumably, then it's going to be green. That is a massive help. I can't tell you how many times I've run into a Claymore thinking it's the enemy one, and it just takes that split second for my brain to go, wait a minute, is that friendly or not, long enough that I will often die to an enemy in that situation. So I think that color is really going to help you make a sort of snap decision on whether you need to be afraid of that or not. Now, moving on to vehicles, there have been several changes to the jets here, and I'm really happy to see these because myself and a number of other creators over on Twitter mainly have been talking a lot about these issues, and it's great to see our feedback has been taken on board and implemented more or less here. So first of all, we've got some pretty big changes to the 20mm Flak cannon that was introduced, of course, in Season 5 as a new weapon for the LAT-V recon buggy. So they fixed an issue with the 20mm Flak cannon, first of all, where it actually did extra unintended damage in direct impact. So if you would hit somebody not with the, you know, splash damage of the Flak, but with a direct impact, it did a crazy amount of damage there. They have lowered the 20mm Flak cannon impulse, meaning it should no longer move your air vehicles wobble. So what they're referring to here is that if you would get hit by the Flak cannon, you actually wouldn't be able to aim. It would give you that much vibration in the cockpit of whatever vehicle you were in. You had no chance of winning a one-on-one with that LAT-V because it would just constantly knock your aim off center. And then finally, they've reduced the range of the 20mm Flak cannon to 200 meters and below. I can't quite remember the range of it. I may just jump in game once I'm finished with this video and check the actual range now, but I think it's closer to 300. I think it's around 300 meters. It may be even more than that. So reducing that down to 200 is actually a pretty significant nerf. And then next up here, they've made some really nice changes to the rocket pods. So the rocket pods, of course, they came in Season 5. They've been a little bit lackluster. They have a massive amount of spread on them. The range of them was terrible. And in 9 out of 10 situations, it's always going to be better to run the AGMs. They're easier to use. They're less risky. The rocket pods just needed some love here to make them competitive. So it says they've added replenishment to jet cannons to keep them consistent with other pods in the game. I think this is a typo. I think they meant to say they've added replenishment to the jet rocket pods to keep them consistent with other pods in the game. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? So of course, the way that rocket pods were previously working is that you had to actually manually reload them, and unfortunately you couldn't do that without spending all of the rocket pods. So let's say you went down, did a strafe, spent 10 rocket pods and you had 6 left in reserve. You actually had to simply empty those rocket pods to trigger the automatic reload. You couldn't press the reload button on your controller or keyboard and manually reload them. So it sounds that they have now reverted that system back to the same system that, you know, let's say the rocket pods on the Nightbird uses, where they just automatically replenish themselves one by one, just like the auto cannon on the MAV or all the other weapons in the game, really. But then the bigger one here, arguably, is that they've increased the range of the rocket pods to 600 meters and below. So I know the range before was 400 meters. Range of these things has now gone up by 50%. This was really needed because there was just absolutely no way that you could strafe any kind of ground target. After all, rocket pods are supposed to be effective against enemy armor, and if you can't get in range of, let's say, a Wildcat to do any damage to it without being absolutely shredded, then what's the point in taking rocket pods when you can simply use AGMs, do an easy 70 damage, and keep well out of harm's way? Of course, they do still have pretty significant spread, so even if you are firing them at that longer range of 600 meters, the spread is obviously going to affect where your hits land even more than at 400 meters and below. So if you're going after infantry, you are probably still going to have to wait until you are a bit closer. I would like to see the spread brought in a little bit. I'd also like to see some sort of a predictive cursor of where your rocket pods are going to land based on trajectory, like a pip, just like in this video I put up here. But hey, hopefully that's coming in 5.2. Next, they fixed an issue that was allowing heavy air vehicles to be used as a battering ram against light ground vehicles without taking collision damage, and this will no longer be the case. So, transport helicopters, I'm thinking of you guys know how it is. If you get rammed by one of those things, they just have such a massive health pool. I think they have something like, I don't know, 500 health compared to most other vehicles in the game. So they could ram any vehicle they want, survive, and the other vehicle will always die. So I don't know how that is no longer going to be the case. Will they just automatically explode if they ram something? That would actually be kind of cool. But it's nice to see either way that that has been addressed. And finally here we've seen some fixes for air vehicle camera clipping and crosshair visibility in all third-person views and transitions from, you know, regular zoomed view, rear view, and rear view zoom. So some pretty nice changes overall here. I think these are all going to benefit the game overall, although I have to say when I saw these update notes drop for 5.1, you know, I did expect something a little bit more. We've seen that there's a new event coming sometime in July, so that's maybe going to drop, I don't know, a couple of weeks from now, but I'm wondering where the Hourglass remake is. I guess they're going to save that one for update 5.2, which honestly, you know, can't really come soon enough. I don't know about you guys, but to me, Season 5 is already getting somewhat stale. I got bored of the new map and the new content that was in the game very, very quickly in, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, really. And at the moment, I think this is like a 14-week season, right? And we are only on something like week 4 at the moment. So DICE, we really need, like, more content. Whatever you guys put in the next season for Season 6, I'm really praying that somehow somebody up there is listening and we're going to get like 2 maps at the very least, because 1 map is just, I don't know, man. It's just not, it's not cutting it. It ain't doing it for me, boys. Anywho, keep on praying. That's all we can really do, right? As always, guys, leave me your thoughts on update 5.1 down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more Battlefield content. Massive thank you to my members as well. And if you guys want to hop on by for a little chit chat, don't forget we do have a Discord server. You guys are more than welcome to join there. And of course, I am always up for a chit chat on Twitter. So leave a follow over there if that's something you enjoy. But as always, guys, thank you for spending some time with me today. And I will see you guys in the next video.